So this is our agenda for today. We'll talk a little bit about housekeeping. We'll go through some issues with regards to policy, which basically essentially will provide you a link if you have specific questions about policy and practices. We'll provide that link for you on the next screen, and you can send those questions directly to the Ohio Department of Education folks, and they'll be happy to respond to you. We'll talk about the Closedown steps. Again, we're at the end of the fall window, and so we'll talk about those steps that are part of the Closedown process. We'll talk about preparing for your submission, and that's the submission of the data for EMIS reporting. So we want to make sure that you have all the information you need in order to submit that properly, and we'll go through those steps and the components associated with that. And then we'll talk about the reporting requirements. At that time, Carissa will go through and share some information with you on reports and how to access them and what reports are important to you at this time. And then finally, we'll kind of wrap up with talking about supports, some of the resources that are available to you even here at the end of the window, the timeline, and then certainly we'll make reference to the feedback survey that we often ask you to fill out. As I mentioned, again, if you have questions specific to policy and practice, we'd like you to send those directly to the Ohio Department of Education, and the email link there is the link that you would use to send your questions. So that's krahelp@education.ohio.gov. And we're going to talk about the Closedown steps. And this is information that you need to think about and consider as you prepare to close down the fall window. Right at the top, we want you to be aware that all student assessment data, all that information needs to be entered by 11:59 on November the 1st. That's when the window will close for teachers entering data for the KRA this year. So again, if you can, we want you to make sure that you let your teachers and building administrators know so they can communicate this information as well, that the window for entering data by the teachers will close on November the 1st. There's a cleanup opportunity, right? There's a time for data managers to do some cleanup. In that process, we want you to make sure that you're taking a look at those student files, making sure that you have records for all the students, that the teacher information and enrollment information is correct and updated as necessary. We want you to make sure that you have initiated and approved any transfer requests that you have received. Or that need to be followed up on your end. So if there's a student that you've transferred, just again, to confirm and make sure that that has been taken care of. You want to make sure that you've downloaded all desired reports for the system in order to create your archive. This is very important. Each year we have folks that want to go back and get data from the previous year, but they've not downloaded any reports. So in order to access your archive, you need to download reports. And so if you've not done that, we are encouraging you to do so. Even today, you can go in today and start downloading reports that you would like to have access to next year. And then that way you're able to, the system's able to create an archive of those reports that you've downloaded, because that's what the archive is. It's essentially capturing the activity that went on the previous year. And so if there's no activity, there's nothing for it to capture. So you can go in today, download some reports, and kind of trigger that process of archiving the current year. And then finally, the data managers will have until 11:59 on November the 9th to complete any kind of data cleanup for this current window. So let's talk about what you need to do to prepare for your submission. All right, data cleanup. Well, here we're talking about you as the data manager going in and accessing the KReady system and making sure that you, again, address those student transfers, that you take a look at those student scores and the data for each student and make sure that you have records entered, assessment information entered by the teachers. Making sure that you check the teacher status. There may be teachers that started out the year, but have moved on to other situations and locations. In that case, you would need to make sure that those teachers are inactive. So we want to make sure that you are going in and checking this information for the teachers. Also, likewise, making sure that you have the enrollments connected, that the student and teacher linkages are made. And then we want to make sure that you are using the correct data token, the correct data collection, which is listed there, 2021 KRAR. So that is the token that should be used for all of the enrollments. And then finally, making sure that the point of authority has been assigned. So again, what sections will you use in the KReady system as you're preparing for the close down and preparing to close out this window? Well, guess what? You're going to use pretty much all of the sections here. The data collection, the users, you're going to check the students, you're going to check your transfers. All of these sections you're going to be using. So now let's talk a little bit about the transfers as we look at what you need to make sure that you take care of related to transfers. Here we have internal transfers. Again, that is a transfer that is happening within the same district. So you might have a student that's moving from one building to another building, but that move is happening within the same district. And then you have external transfers, which obviously would be a student transferring in from another district, from one district to another district. So some of the information that you need to make sure happens with regards to the transfers can be found here in the KReady system in the transfers section. Now, what we want to make sure that you look at first would be the transfer requests from others, because that information is what we would call pending if it has not been approved. And that information needs to be approved in order for the student records to move from your location to their location, and then vice versa. So it's very important that this information has been reviewed and approved or declined, again, depending upon the specific situation, so that the student information, the student assessment records can move with the student in the system. And then you see here a section for your request. The same is true. So if you've transferred a student to another location and you're waiting on a district to approve that transfer, you can find that information in that section as well. And then the transfer history basically is an accounting of what transfers have occurred in the KReady system. So as you're preparing to check for the following as you get ready for the close down, again, I keep reiterating this. You want to make sure that you're checking the student scores and data to make sure that that information is complete and that there's nothing missing. Again, you're checking the teacher status to confirm whether or not they are active or inactive. The enrollments, making sure that the correct data token has been used so that the students and teachers are linked. And then again, that the point of authority has been assigned correctly.
All right, so what we want to go through is all the various reports that you can pull during and after the assessment. So the first set of reports that are listed here, all three of these are available both during and after the assessment. So that first one is the KRA percentage completion report. So this is an Excel file showing the percentages of the students who have completed the full KRA, not partial, just the full, have done all the assessment items. The second one is a KRA completion by item report. So this is going to show what items have scores in it by the teacher, okay? And then the final one there is the language and literacy. And this is going to show all the students that have specifically the language and literacy items and what that scale score is. So I want to go a little deeper. I'm going to go live here and I want to show you how to pull that specific report. We're going to pull the language and literacy report. And as you can see, as soon as you sign in, I know a lot of you are getting used to the system, a little new. So as soon as you sign in, you want to go over here on the left-hand side to reports. Select the drop-down arrow next to create a report and go down to underneath the KRA reports. It's going to be labeled language and literacy report. So again, this report is going to show the language and literacy portion of the KRA, and that can be used to meet the reading diagnostics assessment requirements for that third grade reading guarantee. So you select your data collection. Selecting your region, this is if data managers have multiple districts and you would request that. If you select just your district, this is going to show all the buildings within your district. So if you have multiple kindergarten, multiple buildings that have kindergarten classes. And if you're looking strictly just for a certain location, one school, you would do that teacher report. So we're just going to go ahead and do the district, the location report. Close out of this and you can see the report has been successfully requested. Select download. Once this downloads, you can open this up and it's going to be a little more information here. It's going to have the student information, what teachers attached, what their actual score was per item. And then over here on the far right here, column W, it's going to have their actual LL score, as well as column Y, which is their status. So whether they completed it. You can see here that this teacher, Carissa, has not put in any scores for Wile E. Coyote. So I'm going to make sure as a data manager reaching out to that teacher saying, if you've done this, you need to enter these scores because there are no items on here. So that is the first set of reports. So we're going to go back here. And there we go. All right, so this next set, all three of these, again, you can pull both during and after. So the KRA student and enrollment file or report, that is going to be an Excel file that's going to show the student and enrollment, who they're attached to, what teacher they're attached to. The KRA domain data report. So this one is going to be a little deeper, and this is going to show the domains as well as the student scores and the total points calculated for each of those items and give you like an average, what the average score is. I find that report is very detailed and very good to look a little deeper into data. And the final one is the data downloads report. So this is going to show all teachers, students, all enrollment data, everything that's been entered into the system. And that is the one report that I want to go a little deeper and show you on, because I find this report is extremely valuable for data managers towards the end here, because you're cleaning up, like Ed mentioned earlier, is those transfers. So data managers, after the window closes, does have some time, that data manager cleanup window, to clean up any transfers and making sure everything is correct. So you want to go down over here to data downloads underneath system reports. And the one we're going to look at, like I said, it's going to be the enrollments report. And this is more of like a managerial, and it's going to let you see everything that has been uploaded into the system. So we're going to select the enrollments. We're going to select the data collection. Again, the district, if you have multiple, if you want to look at a specific location. So we're just going to go with that location one. You can see it's been requested. When that pulls, it's going to say export enrollments. We're going to select download. All right, and as soon as this opens, there we go. All right, so now you're going to see, again, the list of the students, the name of the students, who they're attached to, and whether that student is active or the point of authority. So the point of authority is one thing that you want to make sure that you have, especially when it comes to transfers. If you don't have that point of authority, when you go to pull that scaled score report, that student's not going to be on there. And you're going to wonder what happened. So you want to make sure during the cleanup window that all of your students have the point of authority that need it, and does say yes, and they are active. Because if they aren't active, what's going to happen is you're not going to see a teacher here. It's going to have no teacher, and that'll make the student inactive. So again, this is very vital, I feel, at the end when it comes to transfers. All right, so now we're going to go back into this section with the last two reports. So these last two over here are going to be available only after the assessment window. So the first one here is a KRA scaled score report. So this is going to show all the student data, teacher data, their students' overall scores, and their actual item levels for those domains. This is what you submit to EMIS for the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment. And again, this is going to be available after. Normally, data managers have, like I said, they have until November 9th for that cleanup window. And for these two reports, they're usually available late November. So, and what's going to happen is you'll get information sent, I believe that when that report will be available. And you can always contact the help desk as well. We can help you through that as well. The last one here is the KRA ISR report. So this report is going to be an Excel file, and it's going to have a PDF link for the students' KRA results. So this is going to be more of that ISR report. So when you click that link, it's going to pull up a PDF of that student's ISR. And that's more designed for you to share with families, put in a student file. But again, this report's going to be available after the assessment closes, normally around late November, and will be available for you. So I do want to walk through this one, the KRA scaled score report, real quick to let you know what you're looking for here. Select this drop down, and you're going to go again underneath the KRA reports, select that KRA scaled score. So here is where you select the data collection. As you can see, you can't do it right now because it's not available. So this is something that you won't be able to see that data collection until it's available. Again, late November. So here you would actually select your data collection. You can select whether you want to show asterisks for the app items. If you would like to show the items by code name or by actual name, and you would select your district, and you can do a CSV or the district Excel file. So this is the one that you're going to be sending to EMIS. But again, this data collection is not going to come up until the report is actually available.
Great. All right, so with that, let's talk about supports, since we're again discussing how we might be able to support you. One of the things that we like to certainly recommend and highlight is the great information that can be found on the Ohio Department of Education's website. Again, there you can find policy and practice guidelines and information there, as well as kind of some background and context for the assessment itself. They have a great FAQ section. A lot of the questions that come up certainly in the field can be addressed and answered by perusing the FAQs. In addition to that, there are specific sections that are dedicated towards providing information for parents, teachers, and administrators, and data managers as well. There's information on their site that we think is very helpful for data managers as well. And then information about implementing the assessment. So you'll find teachers can find materials there, again, guides and references and resources to help support the implementation of the assessment itself. So we certainly want to point to the Ohio Department of Education's website as a place to start when you have questions, again, about the assessment in general. Technical questions and support questions can be addressed through the help desk, and that's kind of what we're set up to do, is to address those issues and challenges that you might have of a technical nature. Here is the information for the help desk. I believe that many of you have been able to find the site because you've registered for this webinar, but certainly if you have a question or need support, you can reach out to us. We encourage you to do so by submitting a ticket. It allows us to keep track of that information a lot easier, but you can also reach us by phone at 844-K12-OHIO or 844-512-6446. And someone from our help desk team can assist you as well. And when you land on Ohio K-12 Help, you would select the Ready for Kindergarten Online System Support. And there you can find information specific to your role. I also want to highlight this section here. The Department of Education sends out Gov Delivery, and they send out communications and information. And what we try to do is put links to that information so that you can also find that here. If you missed that in your email, or if you haven't signed up, we want to encourage you to sign up to the newsletters. But if you've not done so, or you've misplaced one or deleted it, you can also come back here to our news and announcement page, and we try to keep track of that information as well. We also have a calendar here, and I'm sharing this because some people have asked questions about when the events and things of that nature are happening, and you can come to this calendar and find that information here. So here you see today's webinar. You also see here that on the 1st that the data collection closes. And so we want to, provide this for you so that you have access, quick access to that information. And then lastly, we have an FAQ on our site that, again, is of a technical nature. And so we've kind of broken that down specifically on how you gain access to the system, information about implementing the assessment from a technical perspective, loading data, the reports that Carissa talked about, and then transfers as our section here on transfers. So some of your questions might be answered even here in the FAQ section. So we wanted to point that out so that you were aware of that. Likewise, if you do find that you're unable to get an answer to your question, you can simply click this request support button and submit a ticket to us. You can type in your district name. I'm just going to put in Columbus and click go. And then your school will show up and you can select your school and start submitting your ticket from there. And we'll go back here to the main page. And just want to show you that the information we sent out to you, all those links on that document that we sent out to you, can also be found here in the data manager section. So what we did was just curated some of those links so that you had quick access to them, but all of that information, the links and the videos, can be found here. So I think it's important for you to know where that information is, especially as we talk about support and what we're trying to do to provide you with some resources. So we wanted to make sure that you were aware of specifically how to find and how to locate that information, especially after this webinar is over. I know we've gone through some of this kind of quickly, but we wanted to make sure that you knew that you could go back to that information. So for instance, if you have questions about, transfers, you have questions about loading data, you can come here and there's the information right here, again, walking you through in both video and the 1, 2, 3 kind of step information here for you as well. So we wanted to make sure that you knew where to get that after this webinar was over. So with that, we'll talk a little bit about the timeline so that, again, we just reiterate these dates for you so that you are aware. Today's the 21st. We're doing the webinar right now. On the 1st, the data collection will close for the fall for KRA, the fall 2021. And then on November the 9th at 11:59, we're asking that you have all of your data cleanup task complete. And then the reports that Carissa talked about should be available sometime in late November.
I did just want to point out that the data files, the state data files published from the EMIS data are now available on the Department of Education's website with the other report card data for the fall 2020 assessment window. The teachers must enter all of their scores into the system by the time the window closes on November 1st. So that extended period in early November is just for data managers to do the demographic cleanup. You won't be able to enter any score information during that time. And teachers will not be able to enter score information. Data managers will not be able to enter score information. One other thing is that there was a pretty significant change in our around translation supports for the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment this year. And we do have translation reimbursement available this year for the first time. And if you have questions about that, we have information about that posted on our website. If you would like to, if you had used translators this year and would like to seek reimbursement for that.
They state, so I am clear, I need to download the previous year's data so it may be archived by the system.
The way the system works is this. If you can imagine this, that you're in the system now and there's activity that's going on. What happens in the system from an archival perspective is that an archive is triggered. It basically tells the system to archive what's going on in the system if you download your reports. And so you can, load students and do all of those things, but you're not going to necessarily get access to those reports that that you might want unless you download those reports now while the system is live.
Students who are retained kindergartens, do we need to change them to inactive? And yes, any retained student, any retained kindergarten student does not do the KRA again. So yes, you need to remove the teacher from that student, and that will automatically make the student inactive.
A kindergarten student who moved from out of state and started school today, should that student be included? And the answer is yes. And that would be for any new kindergarten student who does enroll or transfer into your school. You want to assess them on the KRA before November 1st. So that's this week and all of next week. Now, obviously, if a student enrolls on the 29th, you might not get that much. So just remember, if a teacher is unable to administer an item, I know we have some students in quarantine. I've been getting some emails about that. So if you cannot assess items for a child, leave those items blank. Make sure the teachers leave items blank that do not have a score, that were not assessed, and that's okay. And you can always email our KRA help at education.ohio.gov if you have any questions about students coming in or scoring policy. So thank you.
I have a student who withdrew before taking the assessment. He is showing inactive. Do I need to take any further steps so he does not show at all? And no, you did everything right. The only thing you need to do is make the student inactive by removing the teacher. Now the student will not show on any reports and you do not have to worry. It says, what about retained kindergarten students that never took the KRA last year?
I could imagine that a student maybe started after the window, if they were a late move-in and missed the window. I don't think that it would necessarily hurt if the district wanted to administer it, but the data wouldn't be included in your final data anyway for EMIS, because we filter out all of the students who were retained so that their data isn't included in our statewide data. You know, if you have a use for the data at the local level, I think that it would be okay to do it in that instance, but it's not, it's certainly not necessary, and it wouldn't be included in your statewide data when we do our reports.
Can you show us how to add filters to get reports for various demographics of students? So when you go to Ohio K-12 Help here, what you want to do is select the Ready for Kindergarten online system support. This is going to take you then to the main KReady support page. And so for data managers, select the data manager support. And this is going to show you basically the 3 steps: getting started, managing the assessment during the assessment, what you can do during the assessment, what reports you can pull, and then reporting the data. So each one of these here have guides that will show you how to pull the reports that you're looking for. There is a quick minute video that also will walk you through and show you what each of the filters mean. So you can definitely access that.
So how do I fix a POA of a student that was at 2 different schools? Only one transfer request came up and it was approved, but the second school still has the POA.
You want to reach out or look at OEDs and see who that data manager is, and then specifically reach out to that person and have them either, have them accept that transfer. And if you still are having issues, like I say, feel free to reach out to the help desk and we can kind of, see what we can do about helping you get that point of authority as well.
It says any best practice suggestions as a data manager, how I can use reports beyond tasks related to uploading and downloading to format scores information for use to inform instruction to support teachers. That's what we should be doing as data managers and helping with that process. Obviously, it's more than just counting numbers and sending in scores. It should be providing assistance to building administrators and teachers to help them with regards to instruction. There are some plans to provide data managers with some guidance in that space to provide additional information. data managers have access to something called the data displays. And so there'll be information that can and will be provided with regards to how that can be used to assist with instruction.
The student is on their student list. They can see his scores, and you can see that the previous school still has a point of authority. And you wanted to know basically how to submit a transfer request. Once that student's you enter that student to the system, it does trigger that automatically a transfer request. But to trigger another one, to kind of get another one out there, just do a student file again with that student's information. That will, send an additional transfer request over to that previous school. That will do another one for you as well. And you have to do it through the bulk loader. Just redo a student file real quick with that student's information.
Just thank you for your time today, and appreciate all that you're doing to help us and to help the teachers there in the field with regards to the KRA. Again, we're all here to help if you have additional questions along the way. So thank you so much, and appreciate you taking time out to participate in this webinar. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.